And thanks for reminding me why it's so difficult to be in the chemical industry and trying to figure out demand. So I'm very happy to be here this morning, and I've got a quick corporate video that's 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, and then a few more follow-up slides to give you a little flavor of Eastman Chemical for those of you that don't know us. And then we'll get into our supply chain journey, okay? So with that, we'll go to the video.
This is the story of Eastman Chemical Company, a global leader in chemicals, plastics, and fibers. The world depends on our insights to create materials that are in just about everything, from the film in your windshield, the screen on your e-reader, to the coating on your aspirin tablet. Our global community of 14,000 employees continue to pioneer the innovations that lead to practical solutions. Eastman materials enable the success of thousands of household and industrial products. Our manufacturing sites stretch from Asia, across Europe, Latin America, and North America, including the US, where we were founded in 1920. We started simply enough as part of Eastman Kodak, making chemicals to process camera film for an expanding middle class. We've grown to meet the technical and scientific challenges demanded by modern society. Our story is about creating tomorrow. We invest in the skilled workforce required to ask, what if? And refuse to settle for obvious solutions. We are putting our chemistry to work, making life easier and better. Be it a safer food supply, more convenient packaging, or even a better looking dress. The world's leading brands depend on our insight and technical expertise to enable their success, focusing on safety while defining 21st century design and innovation. The women and men of Eastman Chemical Company are poised to meet the world's ever more complex challenges. Creating tomorrow, it's what we do and it's who we are. Pushing the boundaries of science, creating a new generation of technologies that are high-performing and increasingly sustainable. While the world's resources are finite, humanity's needs continue to progress. We are forward-thinking about what we make and how we make it. Our near century of success and global growth continue, powered by the dedication of our employees doing what they do best. Eastman Chemical Company. We are the results of insight.
All right, thank you. So just a little bit more about us. We are a global specialty chemical company headquartered in Kingsport, Tennessee. For those of you that have not been there, it's a beautiful part of the country. We now have around 15,000 employees, and we're spread across 50 manufacturing sites around the world, serving customers in approximately 100 countries. We're very proud of the fact that we're dedicated to environmental stewardship and social responsibility at all of our sites. There are some other awards that we're proud of as well listed. We're about a $10.5 billion company. The video mentioned, we started back in 1920. We do have a long history. Started when George Eastman, post-World War I, got tired of depending on unreliable supply of photographic chemicals. He toured the southeast part of the United States and landed in Kingsport, Tennessee, liked what he saw, bought a small wood distillation plant, and from there we started immediately shipping methanol and acetone to Eastman Kodak, Rochester, New York. And we expanded into acetyl chemistry and then acetate fibers, and we moved into cellulosic plastics, and now we are a plastics, chemicals, and fiber company. 75 years later, 1994 or 74 years later, we were a $3.5 billion Eastman Chemical division of Eastman Kodak. January 1 that year, we spun off from Kodak. So now, 21 years later, we have been separate from Kodak for 21 years. I go through all that because 74 years we were part of Kodak. We learned a lot being part of Kodak. It's in our DNA. It's in the way we do things. It's our culture and so forth. However, it's also a constant reminder of what can happen to you if you don't change and if you don't focus on customers and you don't reinvent yourselves. And we have a lot of retirees in Kingsport, Tennessee that are Kodak employees, and we again honor that legacy, but we also look forward to the things that Eastman Chemical has done and continues to do. All right, I mentioned we are a specialty chemical company. This kind of shows our journey toward that over the last several years. We have been very aggressively moving toward the right, being a specialty chemical company. Our financial results also bear that out. We have 5 years in a row now of year-over-year earnings growth, and 2015 looks like it's going to be number 6. This chart shows a couple strengths of Eastman Chemical. If you look on the left side, you see the markets that we are in the diverse set of markets that were also in the video. And so that helps us strength-wise during economic downturns and so forth. Another key part is the largest market, transportation, is only 18% of our revenue. So again, shows the strength of those end markets. And then geographically, 54% of our sales now are outside the U.S. This is the last slide I'll have on the corporation. Another key part of Eastman is the fact that 2/3 of our sales revenue comes from products that we are either number 1 or number 2 in the marketplace. And so that's a huge strength for us. This chart shows there are 5 external business reporting segments. This is what the street sees, okay? When you look inside of us, we have 10 business organizations, so we basically have 10 supply chains, if you will, in our organization, or 10 business-aligned supply chains. We'll talk about that a little bit more, okay? That gives you a backdrop of Eastman Chemical. When you start looking at the supply chain, the integrated supply chain, and we'll talk about why we call it the integrated supply chain a little later. We're 1,200 people, 18 countries, $7.5 billion of materials, energy, and services, 50 manufacturing sites. You can see some other statistics there of who we are. As we get into our transformation journey, I wanted to show this slide. We're going to talk about each one of these key focus areas a little bit more. I think the arrow points to the fact that we have, on purpose, tried to focus our organization on becoming a value center, less a cost center, okay? And you guys, if you know you're in the supply chain, you know you've been viewed, and maybe still are viewed at times as a cost center rather than a value center. We've been very purposeful over the years to try to improve that, and we think it's very important as we go forward. All right, so we take a look at the key takeaways for a successful supply chain transformation. Again, focusing on your customers, integrate procurement, supply chain operations. We're going to talk about that in detail. Continue to develop and improve capabilities. We all have that first and forefront for all of us, and Andrea did a great job talking about her story. Align and collaborate with business partners, which is very key for us. As we have a large centralized supply chain organization, we have to be business line. We'll talk about that. And then again, all that results in value creation. I'm going to spend a little bit of time because this is our journey. And Andrea used, Serena, Venus example in sports. So being from Tennessee, I hate to do this, but I'm going to use an Alabama example of Nick Saban, okay? Because anytime you ask Nick a question, if you're a football fan, you always hear him say, it's a process, okay? And so that's what it is for us here. It has really been a process and a journey, and I think you'll see at the end of the presentation that we're coming right back to where we started, okay, in many ways, because it is an ongoing process and a journey. Rather than start on the left, we're going to talk about the right-hand side, the Vision 2020 at the very end. Let's start on the red, because I think this is what has really helped us. We have made more progress in this time frame, not necessarily just S&OP, demand-driven value chain, but during this time frame, 2011, 2014, I think we have made more progress in those 4 or 5 years than any previous 10, 15 years in the supply chain. And why is that? And it's because of the things we did in the purple and the green, okay? And so now let's go back to the purple and the green. And what we did in 1995 through 2000, we implemented SAP coming into 2005 at a corporate level, and all of our businesses were in SAP, a single instance, one ERP system. We have been able, as we have acquired companies from then till now, we have been able to maintain that process of having all of our revenue, all of our earnings in SAP. And so that's a huge advantage for us. That's a huge foundation as we have built and gone along on our journey. As you go through these steps, having one ERP system was a very key thing for us. The other thing we did was some organizational re-engineering at this point in time. And we spent, 4 or 5 years breaking down some functional silo walls and so forth between supply, customer service, logistics, procurement, indirect, direct, and so forth. And so we spent some time trying to pull together and get out of those silos that we have been in for many, many years. If you go then to the green box, what you see is the creation of our Center of Excellence. And we had people, and I call it kind of the coming out or coming out of the closet, our Center of Excellence. We finally felt comfortable enough to pull it out and create an organization. We had people they were super users, they were process experts. We had them embedded in our organizations because we were going through acquisitions and we were buying and selling. And we thought if you put them out here and they're very visible, then when you go through a downturn, that they may be a victim of the downturn. We finally got over that hurdle when we realized the value of a Center of Excellence. And we pulled them out 2006, 2007 timeframe, created an organization, called it what it was. They were dedicated to helping us improve along our journey. That was a very key part of helping us get better. The other thing here is this is the first year that we sat down, or the first part, 2007, 2008, we put a roadmap together. I'll show you an example of our current roadmap later on, but it was a very purposeful, structured roadmap that says this is what we're going to do in the next 2, 3, 4 years. And so that was the first time we really had a very structured plan of what we were going to do, people, technology, and process-wise, okay? And so then that gets us to some of the things that have happened to us in the last 3, 4, 5 years, and where we have been able to mature and we have been able to really focus on capabilities and talent. When we talk about things that we didn't do right, this is a big question mark that we have is did we focus on, I forgot to mention that we focused a lot on technology, on planning processes, planning tools, and so forth. We debate back and forth, did we get our technology ahead of our capabilities, okay? And there are cases where we did that, okay? And there are cases today where our technology and our planning technology is ahead of our capabilities, okay? And so if you do a rewind, boy, should we have gotten some other talent in while we invested in that technology? Yeah, probably hindsight says we should have done that. But we are playing catch up real quick, and we did some things on purpose in 2013 to help us catch up on the capabilities and talent side of the house, and we're very happy with all that, okay? So that's our journey. I wanted to spend a little bit of time on that slide because it's a very key part for us. All right, let's move into what we call as the integrated global supply chain. I know generally when you come to a conference, you're interested in benchmarking organizations and organization structure, and so we included that in here, but we also believe it very, very wholeheartedly at Eastman that there's value in the way that we are organized and structured in what we call the integrated global supply chain. We have a VP of supply chain that includes supply chain execution and logistics. I've got another slide that'll show you what's in there. And then we have a VP and a Chief Procurement Officer. We operate that as one senior level team, reports to an executive leader of the company, but we have one budget, okay? We have key common metrics. There are some separate, but there are also some very common metrics like working capital, okay, free cash flow and things like that. And so being in the chemical industry, we're we can be a little incestuous at times. Our best customer is also our best supplier. We trade products, we manufacture and toll for each other, and it's very easy for supply chain to throw procurement under the bus or procurement to throw supply chain under the bus as we're managing, pretty much upstream from the value chain that retail folks are. And so this organization has served us very well as we manage that as a whole. And as you know, whether it's order to cash or procure to pay, we bleed into each other, and this structure has really helped us do that. Here are some of the detailed responsibilities in each one of these organizations. You can see we have customer service, materials management, the asset planning, the supply-demand planning of all of our sites and assets and so forth. There are centers of excellence, and then you see direct procurement responsibilities, the logistics, typical logistics procurement operation-related responsibilities, some trade optimization, and then we also have the indirect procurement in this whole integrated global supply chain team, okay? This slide shows back to our 10 businesses that have supply chains. We have a supply chain leader, okay, usually a director level for basically almost all of those businesses is a director level supply chain leader that sits in our supply chain, but that person is responsible for running and executing the supply chain strategy, determining the business strategy, understanding the business strategy, and then determining a global supply chain strategy. And we basically regionally execute those global strategies through this organization structure here. And again, it helps us focus both vertically and horizontally as we matrix manage around the world, okay? And so we are happy with our organization structure as usual. We're always looking at it, and we're at a phase now where we're re-looking at making tweaks and so forth, and it has everything to do with our Vision 2020 around what are the businesses expecting and requiring of us. The advantages here, I've called out some of them, but certainly optimization of processes from end to end. Capabilities are enhanced. Managing talent, this has been a huge win for us as we pull our resources together to look at what we can do to grow talent, especially new talent coming into the organization, as they're expecting to move every 18 months, 2 years, and so forth. And ultimately, this has helped us improve our customer service and our reliability to our businesses, okay? All right, let's talk a little bit about talent and developing and improving capabilities around people, processes, and technology. So we have been very focused also on trying to get out of being viewed as a transactional-based organization, one that's into basically more performance measures and performance metrics and analytics. And this is also a journey as we have gone through the stages of our maturity. Requires different leadership skills than we had historically, and so we are on that journey as well, and also certainly the advanced technologies require a different leadership skill. So we are making a lot of progress in this area. It continues to be at the forefront of what we are doing and what we're about. I've mentioned the Center of Excellence, and so we set this organization up now about 8 years ago. It shows the 4 components of what they really do around innovation, trying to get cutting-edge technology, process improvement, what can we do to be more efficient and effective, maintenance and support of things that are broken, not working right now, or just unique situations that need to be fixed, whether it's a broken process or some broken technology, and then compliance, whether it's SOX, separation of duties, those kind of things. It's not regulatory compliance, it's more internal-based compliance. So what we've tried to show is on the blue box on the left, where we were versus now where we are. And sometimes it's aspirational around where we want to go on this 50% innovation. That gets interrupted a little bit when we have acquisitions, because this group is also the key group that does the actual integration. And so sometimes we have to we don't get as much innovation during times like that when we're doing integrations and so forth. But you can clearly see we have moved this organization from less supporting of transactions to trying to be more cutting edge improvement, process, technology, innovation focused, okay? Here's the roadmap I mentioned to you. This is our current roadmap. We are in the process of updating this. We initially started with a 3-year roadmap, and so this one has been more of a 5-year roadmap, but we look at it every year and tweak it and so forth. And so we'll be doing the very same thing again this year. You can see it has on the right the value creation around the components that we all work very diligently to try to balance cost, service, and working capital as you're in the supply chain. And certainly around optimization of the spend and the cost around procurement and logistics, and then a lot of capabilities. I don't have the time to go into some of the demand-driven value chain unique initiatives, but we take this roadmap, and then every year our key initiatives that we get from businesses and then from the supply chain, we'll pull those in and make sure that they fit into this roadmap. But this roadmap is also then a function of what we hear from our businesses as well. This again has been extremely valuable to keep us on track, moving in the right direction when a lot of things can happen to you in the supply chain that can get you off track. Whoops. Okay, so critical success factors, I think, for driving transformation and improved capabilities here. I mentioned a roadmap, leadership of the organization. Again, we are a very small, very closely aligned senior leadership team within the IGSC. That really helps us, I think, as we rally our organization around this. We spend a lot of time developing governance around processes and so forth. The COE was a very key part of driving the improvements, and certainly demonstrating value, and we're going to talk about that here in just a little bit, is also a very key component of that. Having one instance of SAP, having the visibility that all of that offers us, does allow us to implement many solutions globally. Our challenge is, how do you be business aligned when you have some businesses we do sell, to consumers at Home Depot and Lowe's and so forth. So we do have some consumer business, but a large portion of it is up the value chain. And so the span of needs across all of those different types of supply chains really create opportunities for us to try to maintain some standardization, but also be very unique, focus on business needs. Okay, align, collaborate with business partners. One of the most important things that we do as a supply chain is make sure that we are aligned and collaborate with our business partners. And this is a capital B, but also a little b about that as well. And as we have gone through this talent regeneration and hiring more and more recently, I think there's two things that we're looking for. If you cannot collaborate, I don't care how smart you are, and I even tell my son this, if you can't collaborate, with people, you can't work in the supply chain, all right? You're working and collaborating with business, with sales, with commercial, with manufacturing, with customer service, with logistics, with finance. And so you have to be able to collaborate. That's a key thing that we're looking for when we're recruiting, is someone, we like them to be at the top of the class, but we also really need to have them collaborate. It's absolutely key. You can have one person in your supply chain that doesn't collaborate well, and that is like one bad apple in it that spoils a big bunch. So that's a very key part for us in our talent search. And then anytime we get a leader in our organization, the first thing I sit down with them and say, you better make sure that you and your organization are aligned with your business. You need to understand the business strategies enough that you can interpret those into supply chain strategies, and that is your first and foremost priority of alignment with the business and interpreting those strategies. This is an ongoing challenge for us. It's not easy to do when you're running in a chemical space especially, we're splitting molecules. While we have 10 businesses, we may have a intermediate product that can go to 4 or 5 businesses, okay? And so one of the values of having all these supply chain leaders report to a common senior leader with supply chain is it's difficult sometimes to know who gets the molecule. We have financials that tell us who gets the molecules, but we all know sometimes financials aren't just purely biased, okay? And you know, you look at your risk strategy and so forth, and so it is a real challenge for us in the chemical industry to make sure that we are aligned with our business strategies and we are optimizing the corporation and not necessarily a single business unit at that point in time. This is absolutely key. There are times when our business partners see us absolutely as a business partner. You guys are bringing to the table exactly what we need. There are times when they say, guys, you're not focused on the right thing, okay? We have to constantly remind ourselves, and we have to constantly tell the story. There are a lot of things that we do that don't get always told, and so it's forefront for us to make sure that we're telling the story appropriately to our business partners. And then that leads us into business success, and I think we have to make sure that everything we're doing, whether it is, you know, our cost structure, our ability to optimize our networks and so forth, is adding to the bottom line, and again, showing it time and time again, improving it time and time again. And maybe I sound a little paranoid, okay, but certainly when you run a large supply chain organization that's centralized, you have to be business aligned. Otherwise, you start seeing this break up. And it would be very difficult at Eastman for us to be optimized to break up supply chain and put it in individual businesses back to, again, splitting molecules and making planning when you're backward integrated. So it's forefront for us to make sure that we are providing value and telling the story as much as we possibly can, and that we're viewed as a value partner. And we are by many of our businesses, but guess what? It's not about what you did yesterday, it's about what you're going to do for me tomorrow, okay? All right, so as we look at all of this, then we continue to have, and I've probably stated some of this, more pressure to deliver value than we've ever had. I don't see that letting up. We're asked for more innovation. We're asked for more and improved cost structures as we go forward. Certainly, we have to continue to focus on bringing insights and collaboration to our businesses. All right, so we talked about a little bit of where we've been, and now it's about where we're going, and we're spending some time now on a Vision 2020 exercise that says, okay, where do you need to go from here, and what does that look like? And so we really haven't rolled it out yet, but this gets to what I mentioned earlier. We're kind of back to the future again here. There isn't anything that's really new here, all right, that we haven't been doing already. I think what you're seeing is we have to peel the onion back on business alignment. We're doing that to make sure we're even more business aligned through integrated global supply chain so that they see us as completely business aligned. We've segmented customers in varying degrees. We now have to look at service offerings that really help us grow with those customers that are going to help us grow. We, for many years, have been all and done all to everyone, including those that have never gone out of, you know, buying 2 bulk trucks a year from us, okay? And so we have to figure out how we can be smarter around service offerings. So you'll see in our Vision 2020 a very focused effort on segmentation. We'll always be focused on process. The Center of Excellence organization now for IGSC is around 60 people around the world, and it is heavy U.S. We have to expand those capabilities outside of the U.S., particularly Asia. We've done a fair job in Europe over the years developing those capabilities. We have not been as successful in Asia. It's a key focus area for us, and so we have to do that. Cost structure optimization, and talent management. We have a great talent team that we set up 6 years ago, and they're doing a superb job. We have to continue doing that. It's going to be a focus for us as we go forward, certainly. Organization structure, I mentioned to you. I think we have the right structure. We'll have to make some tweaks here and there. But again, it's some of the same stuff. It's a process. It's a journey. And all right, I'm out of time. Key learnings, I've mentioned a lot of these from our past failures. The roadmaps can take a long time, right? Initiatives, you got to be patient. And you can see the length of time. We can't afford to be that patient going forward, I know, from what you've seen from us. But don't underestimate the amount of time things can take. The balance of talent and technology, I've spoken to that already. Master data, foundational stuff, SAP. Don't underestimate the impact that that can have on you as you try to improve things. And I mentioned unrealistic timelines. So we've had a good track record for the last 4 or 5 years. I think, again, the rate of improvement of our supply chain has been better than it's ever been. And over the last 4 or 5 years, it's been recognized externally. And we thank Laura and Supply Chain Insights for their recognition of our progress. And we're going to continue on the journey. And again, it's a process. So thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.